Happy
you.
Mother's Day, my friend.
Thank you.
All right, that's all for us at noon. Chicago Live is
4 p.m. and it is a pretty busy day today. You know, we say happy Friday. We love those words. We made it to the end of the week. We wait all week to be able to say happy Friday. I'll be honest, you know, it's a bit of a heavy Friday for so many in the city of Chicago. The services for Officer John Bartholomew just wrapped up. This is a view outside of St. Andrews there. It was packed. It was a packed house today to say final goodbyes. The family has moved on now to his final resting place, but you can see Old Glory still flying off of a ladder there. What a moment for our city. This is the 7th police officer that we have lost in the last 5 years, starting in 2021 with Officer Ella French, now to Officer Bartholomew. So please have his family, his friends, heard some very poignant words from them today. And of course, the rest of his family in blue, the Chicago Police Department, in your thoughts and prayers today. There were people who came from all over the Midwest, really, to mark this day, the loss of a hero in this area. And in fact, his brother talked about how positive of a person he always was. So it's just so sad that he lost his life in such a tragic way. And we're still thinking about the family of Officer Crespo, who is still in the hospital right now fighting for his life. Officer Bartholomew's partner, who was also shot 2 weeks ago at a Swedish hospital. So again, a bit of a heavy day for many today, but we do have plenty of conversations that we've lined up for you today that we're going to be talking about, some that will be literally out of this world, and some that are a little strange, and maybe a few that are a little bit more relatable. Right around 1:45, we're going to talk about brain-eating amoeba. I did say some that would be a little strange out there, so I'll throw that one out first and foremost here. A rare brain-eating amoeba that's been found in recreational waters at several Western national parks. We're talking about Lake Mead, the Grand Teton, Yellowstone even, and if you think about the time of year we're in, no one wants to hear that when everyone's planning trips for the summer. Well, we're going to be talking to the director of the Thermal Biology Institute at Montana State University, the co-author of this new study. We're going to dive into it, know what you need to, kind of keep in mind as you put together your summer plans and well beyond there as well. We are so happy to have the folks from Wheaton College that are going to be joining us. They just broke ground on a new athletics facility. I mean, this is huge. We're talking about $23 million for this athletics facility improvement project. And so we're going to talk to them about, what they have coming up, the moment that they're in, what's planned for it, this expansion that they say will significantly enhance the daily experience of student athletes. All of these colleges, all of these institutions of higher learning, let me put it that way, colleges, universities, all of them are doing what they can to keep, not just to attract, but to keep student athletes in this day of NIL and transfer portals and all of those things. You want to get them to your college, you want to keep them at your college, and that means that your facilities have to be top notch. That is a part of the game, and so they are making a major expansion effort, and we're going to be able to talk to them about that as well. We have stayed on this story about the Beagles. What a big story it's become. It's become a national headline at this point in time. Those beagles that have been rescued from the Ridgeland farms, they were being used for research, for lab tests, and there have been so many developments in this story over the last month. We've tried to follow each one. We had a protester who was on the show that talked about, in his words, doing what they had to do to try to save those beagles. We have had had one of the reporters who has followed this very closely over time. And now we're seeing that these beagles have been rescued. Many of them are being prepared for adoption now across the country. Some of them that will be coming here to Chicago. And so we're going to talk with the president of the Center for a Humane Economy about their work to make this happen and what happens from here. But first, we're starting off with a topic, a proposal, okay? The USPS that's now proposing that the U.S. government allow handguns be sent through the mail for the first time since 1927. And I have Justin Davis, the Director of Public Affairs for the NRA, the National Rifle Association, who is joining me now to talk about their thoughts on what could be a major development. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me today.
Tell me about you all's reaction, first and foremost. Let's just start there to this, idea, this possibility.
I mean, this is another massive step by the Trump administration to deliver for gun owners across this country. The Department of Justice under Todd Blanche, Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, is really putting everything forward to make sure that they're actually delivering on the promise for gun owners, something that sometimes we do not always see from politicians in Washington, D.C. So this is a common sense reform that's been 100 years in the making that allows individuals to ship handguns to themselves, to manufacturers, and to other folks within the state. This is especially important for folks who live in states where they're traveling through many states. So if you live in a free state like New Hampshire and you're going to, say, Wyoming for a hunting trip and you want to be able to send your firearms to there so you don't get stopped in a state that's anti-gun and risk yourself some serious legal trouble. It's just common sense reforms like that that make sure we're not tripping up law-abiding gun owners who are trying to do the right thing.
And there are so many gun shows or people that, yes, are maybe transporting guns from one state to the next for many different reasons, a hunting trip, so many other things. Are you concerned, though, that this could easily be manipulated, guns going through the mail? And we have a lot of stories about, criminals accessing USPS trucks for just everyday types of things, like checks that people put in the mail. Are you concerned that they could be getting guns in the mail?
Well, first of all, I mean, if you have a problem with criminals breaking into Postal Service trucks, that's because we're allowing criminals to continue to walk the streets. Soft on crime policies, like we see in Chicago, allow career criminals to not be held accountable and continue to wreak havoc on their streets. So instead of putting the onus on people who are just trying to ship firearms to protect themselves legally, I think we should be really focusing on criminals who are doing the harm here, not folks like myself who want to make sure I'm protecting myself from legal peril.
Sure. Tell me a little bit more about the effort to get here. I mean, when you say it's been so many years in the making, that means that there were a lot of hurdles, a lot of hoops that you all had to jump through to even get it this far.
Yeah, I mean, look, the NRA has been around for 155 plus years, and we work on all kinds of legislation. This is a small part of the broader push we're doing to make sure we're securing Second Amendment rights. And we're incredibly lucky that President Trump and his team in the White House are listening to gun owners and seeing what are the real problems here. How can we make sure that we're not tripping up law-abiding citizens with arbitrary paperwork laws, whether it's the reforms of the ATF, the Postal Service, making sure veterans can hold on to their Second Amendment rights just because they get help with their benefits. These are simple, common sense things that are focusing on shifting the attention of the government away from law-abiding citizens and to the criminal activity we're seeing in this state. That, of course, has not been the same under previous administrations like the Biden administration, who try to find new ways to layer more regulations and try to really put the trouble of the law on law-abiding citizens instead of going after criminals. So it's good not only for us as gun owners, but good as a country that we're refocusing our efforts on holding criminals accountable.
How would this effectively change, the way business is done for many gun manufacturers and for gun shops? How would it change? What can they do now versus if this is approved, what they would be able to do after it?
So this is for private use. So FFLs, or federal firearm licensees, they already have their own methods. So, in places like Illinois where they have universal background check laws, whether it's a private sale or a official sale through an FFL, have to go through an FFL. So, these are not just sending these firearms out in the mail. They still have a strict federal process they have to go through before they can sell any firearms. So it's really mostly about just making a common sense reform for people who are trying to do the right thing, who are trying to make sure that they can send their property legally and lawfully.
So it's for private owners, and that is a huge distinction there that I think people need to hear. This wouldn't be for gun shops or things of that nature. Why do you think taxpayers will look at this and maybe question it going through the USPS? If it's a private citizen versus maybe other means that they could get a gun from one place to the next?
So, I mean, private companies like FedEx and UPS already allow shipment of firearms through their services. You have to be a federal firearm licensee, like I said before. But these also have very strict laws and regulations around how you ship a firearm. There are common safety ideas such as making sure it's secure, making sure it's unloaded, making sure it's safe for everybody on all ends of that property. So, I mean, this is not the scare tactics you're seeing from the left saying it's an iron pipeline throughout the country. This is just a simple housekeeping change by the USPS to make sure that folks have their Second Amendment rights, can make sure they can get their property safely and undamaged from one area to the next.
Are you concerned at all? And you've mentioned Chicago and some of the policies here in the state of Illinois and the city of Chicago. Are you concerned how this would affect communities that are more affected, more gripped by gun violence?
I would say Chicago is a prime example of how gun control laws have failed. I mean, you all have some of the strictest gun control in the country, yet you have rampant violent crime throughout your streets. And instead of holding those people accountable, your mayor and your governor continue to put that blame on everybody else. So it's about time that they relook at their processes, look at how they're prosecuting crime and holding people accountable so folks who just want to protect their families are able to. In the event they're not able to, are able to protect themselves. Because when the seconds count, police are only minutes away. We've seen tragedy and tragedy and tragedy again in places like Chicago. It's time that we get real about crime. It's about time we get real about letting people protect themselves and using their God-given rights.
And let me ask, is this for any type of firearm, or are there specific types of firearms that would be able to be transported in this way?
So shotguns and rifles have already been allowed through USPS. This is a handgun change. Previously, you could not have a handgun mailed through the Postal Service. That proposed change will make it so they're treated the same ways as shotguns and rifles. And there's not been problems with that, and there won't be problems with handguns either.
Would the NRA support like GPS tracking or something of that sort to make sure they're making it from one place to the next?
Well, I think the Postal Service already has a lot of those protocols in place with tracking numbers, insurance, things like that. You know, these are expensive pieces of property. Quite often, people are going to want to make sure that their firearm is getting to them. So, I mean, gun owners care about their property. They care about making sure their guns don't end up in the wrong hands. And so you're seeing people do that naturally. You don't need laws to tell people to do that. It's education, not legislation in this matter.
Okay, so then is this... you said this is a part of what you all are advocating for right now. What comes next? What happens next with this?
Yeah, absolutely. We want to see it put in place finally to make sure that's in statute and codified in that law. And then we move on to the next project, right? We have several, actually, probably hundreds of policy proposals that we push across this country, whether it's in the courts, state houses, or in D.C. So we're always busy here making sure we're pushing the ball forward and making sure that we're advancing the Second Amendment rights so they're not able to be taken away by rogue lawmakers who want to disarm law-abiding citizens.
Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you coming on the show today.
Thank you very much.
All right, take care. Again, that was Justin Davis, the Director of Public Affairs for the NRA. It's 1:13 right now, everyone. We're going to take a 2-minute break, and we'll be back. 1:16, and while we wait on our next guest to join us in the chat, we want to take you high up above the processional for Officer Bartholomew as we have this picture. This processional has to be about a mile long, and we took a wider view of it not too long ago in the break, and you can kind of see as we're just panning through. I mean, when I say that that church was packed, you can see here people, officers, first responders, law enforcement community that came together to wrap their arms around his family today. And this department that has, if you think about having to make this type of trip over and over again, 7 times in the last 5 years, what that would do to your psyche, what that would do to your family's psyche of seeing this type of moment for CPD yet again. After Ella French in 2021, after Andres Vasquez Lasso in 2023, and Ariana Preston in 2023 as well, after Luis Huesca in 2024, and Enrique Martinez in 2024, after Crystal Rivera in 2025, and here we are in 2026, and they make this solemn trip yet again. You can see some people have come out just to the sidewalks to view, to pay their own respects, and we will only carry this so far, but look, that's the wider view, and you can still see how far back that line goes there. These are both beautiful and super sad moments that you watch community come together like this. Obviously, we wish that they did not have to make this trip today, right? We wish that Officer Bartholomew was still among us, living and serving the city of Chicago. So it is extremely unfortunate that they would have to make this trip, and yet it's also beautiful that there is a system in place to surround the family of a fallen officer much like this. You know, it was just last weekend that there was a parade through the streets of downtown Chicago for the Police Memorial Foundation. I believe 608 names that are listed on the wall of fallen officers over time. And each time that they add one, it's heartbreaking. But in those moments of walking through the streets, they were able to see people come out and just show a bit of support for the hard job that they have to do each and every day, the unknown that follows them each and every day. We always say there is no such thing as a routine assignment for first responders when they put on their uniform each day. You never know what's going to happen. Look at all of those people who have lined the streets. That's you know, again, the sadness, but the beauty. That people are just stopping in the middle of their day and coming out to show the family some support, show the department some support here. But no such thing as a routine day. For Officer Bartholomew and his partner, Officer Crespo, they were working an armed robbery. I believe it was outside of a Family Dollar. And after apprehending a suspect, that suspect said that he had swallowed drugs, and therefore they took him to the hospital. At the hospital, that suspect somehow, who had been able to smuggle a gun inside, shot and critically wounded Officer Crespo, who is still fighting for his life, and shot and killed Officer Bartholomew, just 38 years old. I mean, should have had so much life still ahead of him, a husband, a father, someone who was giving back in such an instrumental way in the city of Chicago, whose life was cut short. And so today, while the investigation still continues and while the questions still continue as to how this could have even happened, you know, there's a lot of questions as to how this could have even happened. The situation, the long criminal history, all of those things. While all of those things still, we'll continue to ask those questions. Today, people just stop for a moment to say thank you and to say we appreciate you as his family says goodbye. It is such a sad day, and like I said, the family of officers within the Chicago Police Department, it in some ways is even sadder because many of them have made that trip before. So our thoughts and prayers are certainly with all of them yet again today as they make that familiar trip. We are continuing to gather information, continuing as we get those live pictures. We will take you to what we are seeing, and we will give that information to you both online and also on air as we can. It is that important for all of us to stop and just recognize the weight, the gravity of the moment that we're in, losing yet another Chicago police officer. We are getting ready for a conversation about those beagles that were rescued. So many people that had been fighting for this moment for quite some time here, and now they are preparing to get these dogs out for adoption. I've been seeing some of the videos of them from the different humane societies, and it's just been so beautiful as they're free. They are free, 1,500 beagles that have been rescued now from the Ridgeland Farms because of the work of so many people who have fought for quite some time, for years in fact. And the Ridgeland Farms, it's important to say, they're not closing. They're just changing their operation a bit. So it's really important to say that. They're not closing. They are just changing their operation a bit as a result of this pressure that's been on them, the pressure campaign to save these animals. And I know for many of the animal rights activists, they're not done applying that pressure to Ridgeland Farms, but this is where they are at this point in time, really celebrating the fact that these 1,500 beagles have been rescued, that they're going out to different organizations that can handle, obviously all of our rescues are kind of inundated, which is why we have Pause Chicago here at the station so often, because they have been inundated and they need more help. They need more people coming to them to say, hey, I would like one of those puppies. I would like one of those dogs that's been there for a while, because sometimes it takes a little while for the older dogs. And now even Pause Chicago is getting 25 of these 1,500 beagles that have been rescued, and we're hearing that might not be the only group of beagles that from this 1,500 that'll be coming here to Chicago. So to give new opportunities for people in our area to add to their homes. So we're waiting to have this conversation with the president of the Center for a Humane Economy, and I believe he's here now. Wayne, can you hear me?
I sure can. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, and thanks so much for joining us. I know it's been a busy time for you all.
Yes. Well, I'm at the U.S. Capitol now, working on legislation to reduce animal testing and to be a catalyst for the switch to non-animal testing methods. Because the beagles at Ridgeland Farms, the facility in Blue Mounds, Wisconsin, that we're working to rescue, 1,500 of them, are only there because for so many decades, beagles were the animal of choice for researchers to do toxicity testing and other drug screening. So while we're very focused on protecting these 1,500 beagles, we know that we cannot rescue our way out of this problem. we must have national policies to switch over to non-animal testing methods so that we don't have to continue to have beagles in laboratories and no more beagles in supply companies that feed those animals into the laboratory animal system.
Wayne, why beagles?
They are so docile and compliant and submissive. You know, last Friday, a week ago, when I pulled the first beagle out of a cage that started our rescue, and 1,000 have now been removed from 7 or 8 buildings at Ridgeland Farms. The animal wanted to, or all of the animals in the building that I first stepped into, they were jumping, they were barking. You couldn't even hear yourself think. They were all out of sync. Beagles have, great loud barks. They yowl. They were very excited to see people. But then when I opened the cage door, the 2 beagles slunk to the very back of the cage and really made me reach and grab to get them. They did not exhibit any aggression. They didn't nip. They didn't growl. That's who beagles are. They are so compliant and submissive. So in a laboratory animal setting, the researchers who are working with them know that they're not going to have any retribution from the beagles if they cause them pain and suffering.
Wow, very interesting. And what shape are they in?
We're in a non-disparagement agreement with Ridgeland Farms, so we're not allowed to talk about the conditions. I will say that in terms of the beagles that I saw, though, this is not disparaging. They look to be in okay shape. I can't really get into more detail than that, but we were set up with our rescue partners to treat the animals, to have veterinarians, to take all the steps to bring them back into good health if they were not in good health. And I'm headed back to Wisconsin over the weekend, and then we're going to pick up the rescue again. We have 500 more dogs to pull before we meet the terms of the agreement that the Center for Humane Economy and Ridgeland Farms, along with Big Dog Ranch Rescue, came to agree upon. And we'll see. And then there are several hundred other dogs that are not part of the accord that we reached, and we'd really like to obtain those animals. We believe that this is a business model that is no longer viable with the switch toward alternatives. And if the United States, through the National Institutes of Health and the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, really get serious about switching to these 21st century human relevant drug screening methods, we can more rapidly move away from this beagle supply at Ridgeland Farms, but also there's a place in upstate New York called Marshall Bioresources that has 20,000 beagles that are being bred and supplied to laboratories across the country. So we're in the midst of a fight. That's why your viewers can really help us by reaching their lawmakers. I'm here to talk about the FDA Modernization Act 3.0, which will, again, move us into our drug development work. So for 84 years, every new drug that was being developed by a pharmaceutical company had to go through extensive animal tests in order to get final clearance. It would take 10 to 15 years. It would take hundreds or even thousands of animals for a single drug. It had an enormous failure rate, that drugs that passed muster in animal tests that failed in human clinical trials 90% of the time. I mean, it was just an unworkable, and it's an archaic and outdated system, especially because we have so much more work that we've done on alternative methods that are based on human biology, where you can forecast the human reaction to drugs, not the beagle's reaction to a drug. So your viewers can help us get the FDA Modernization Act 3.0 passed. The U.S. Senate unanimously approved it in December. It's up to the House now to do this so that we don't need to have beagles conscripted into toxicology tests and other tests that cause them pain and suffering.
I find it astounding that, as you know, when we first heard about what was happening at Ridgeland Farms, for those of us who don't do this work, who aren't in the, in it like you are, in this fight like you are, our eyes were open to something that many of us knew nothing about, and yet you just described yet another place that had maybe as many or even more beagles at their facility. So how rampant is this?
Well, the good news is that these are the two biggest breeding facilities that remain. Ridgeland Farms, which we hope is winding down its operations. That's why we made the deal at the Center for Humane Economy. We're not into buying animals from institutions that cause them harm to enrich them so they can indefinitely continue their operations. Ridgeland is under a settlement agreement from a special prosecutor to phase out its sales of dogs to research institutions by July 1. We did not want to have we did not want to see a fire sale so that the dogs were sold at bargain basement prices to laboratories. So I hope Ridgeland Farms moves away completely from this. Marshall Bioresources is 10 times the size, 10 times, 2,000 beagles versus 20,000. So the good news is we don't believe there are many others operating at anything close to the scale of those two operations. So if we can settle with Ridgeland Farms, and if they exit the business, which we hope, and if Marshall Resources can start to wind down, and we can just close this ugly era of victimizing these docile animals who belong in our families, not in laboratory settings.
My. Again, you're opening our eyes to so much in you all's work that continues on. Now is like a huge team effort throughout the country. We know that some of these beagles are coming here to Chicago, to Paw Chicago, but I heard right before we came on that there may be even more coming to another facility?
Yes, I think so. And Chicagoland is obviously a great animal-loving city. I know that Chicagoland residents will open their arms and their hearts to more beagles. And I would say, there's just been an amazing outpouring of sympathy and empathy and a great interest in adopting the beagles. We believe that as we march ahead to address this larger problem, which I mentioned about the upstate New York facility, we're going to have other opportunities for people to help these animals. One of the best things people can do now is support our rescue effort. Go to centerforhumaneeconomy.org and support that rescue effort and the medical treatment of the animals. And also go to our website to use our Contact Congress forms to ask lawmakers to support the FDA Modernization Act 3.0. As I said, we can't rescue our way out of the problem. This was a government mandate for many years. We lifted that mandate 3 years ago, but it's now up to us to kind of clinch the case for alternatives use.
Very interesting. Thank you so much for your time today and for raising our awareness to what is happening.
Thank you so much. Great to talk with you today. Appreciate it.
Take care. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
All right. It's just about 1:35, everyone. So give us 2 minutes and we'll be back with our next conversation, kind of joining in the celebration for Wheaton College today. 1:36 in Wheaton College. Boy, oh boy, today is a really big day as they have this athletics facilities expansion campaign goal of $23 million. Well, they have a groundbreaking ceremony today, and we're going to talk about their way forward with Director Mike Schauer, Athletic Director Mike Schauer. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you for the invite.
And congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. Exciting day for us. A day we've been, planning for and waiting for a long time. So excited for this opportunity in this day. It's a significant moment in the history of Wheaton athletics.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about how this will change things for you all.
Yeah, it's pretty significant. It'll continue to allow us. Wheaton's got a strong history in intercollegiate athletics, and it will allow us to continue to recruit really sensational and special student athletes. But what it'll do is it'll allow us, we're building basically tripling the size of our training room, which will allow us to care for our student athletes better. It will provide a student athlete only weight room, which will allow us to train our student athletes better while freeing up our current institutional fitness facility really for the general student. And then it'll provide an individual and sport specific locker room for each of our student athletes in each of our sports. And so it's just going to really significantly impact and benefit each of our student athletes in a way that really we've not been able to provide in the past. So it's a significant moment for us and something we're pretty excited about. And anybody who's around intercollegiate athletics knows that something like this only happens through the generous donations of alums and former student athletes. So we're humbled by the generosity of generations of Wheaton student athletes and Wheaton alumni, and just thankful to be here.
Yeah, it's really huge, and you have a changing landscape really for college athletics right now. Expound on that a little bit and how you all are meeting that moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's a significant time in higher education and in athletics in terms of the recruitment process and the competitive nature of it. And we can supposedly debate whether facilities should matter, but they do. And it just sends the message that intercollegiate athletics at Wheaton matters, that, Wheaton's a Christ-centered institution, so we recognize that student athletes are gifted in this way. And so it affirms their giftedness, that the Lord has created us in a way that has given us some athletic ability. And so to kind of meet, the expectations and care for our student athletes in a way that candidly in today's intercollegiate athletics is an expectation and something that they want to have. So we're meeting that threshold, and it should allow us to continue to recruit significant student athletes here who fit the unique mission of the college, which is a Christ-centered institution. So that intersection is significant for us.
And I love the way that you all approach it. If when people are looking at this or seeing, groundbreaking ceremony, how far out are we from actually having students in these facilities?
Yeah, great question. So this is ceremonial groundbreaking, but the truth is we have graduation this weekend and the project will start in earnest almost immediately. The goal date for completion is August of 2027. So we're looking at about a 16-month process. So it's a pretty quick turnaround. And so really in the fall of 27, just over a year from now, the facility expansion and renovation will be completed, and our student athletes will get a chance to experience that and move in the fall of 27.
Are you seeing other developments around Wheaton College? Like, let's say, there's a student somewhere else on college, on the college campus, and they're like, is athletics getting everything? Or is there some other development that's happening around the campus, and this is a part of it?
Yeah, it's a part of it. That's a great question. So we're putting a significant, the entire campaign is several million, a couple $100 million. We're expanding and renovating the library, which is a substantial renovation as well. We're giving money towards scholarships. We very recently did a brand new conservatory building. And so really it's sort of bringing athletics a little bit up to speed, and the library up to speed with the rest of the campus. And I would be remiss not to say, some of these facilities will actually open up spaces for our quote unquote general students. They actually will have better access to some of our weight room and fitness facilities for the general student. So I do think this benefits the campus as a whole, although obviously with a significant portion of that being directed towards athletics and the student athlete.
Will the community also use some of these facilities? Will you all be able to host some things there?
Yeah, again, another great question. So we do have community membership into our current fitness facility, the Krauser Center. So by moving student athletes sort of out of that general fitness space, really the community members will have access to greater fitness and weight room facilities as well. Because right now there's a little bit of tension, for lack of a better way to say it. Our intercollegiate teams want and need to use that fitness space, but that takes it away a little bit from the general population and from our community. This will free up those other spaces to be primarily for the general student and our community members who will continue to get to use our weight room, our pool, and things like that.
Very interesting. And I mean, the job of an athletic director is never done. But how does it feel to, be the athletic director at this moment in time for Wheaton College?
Yeah, it's humbling. I'm about to speak at the groundbreaking ceremony, and I would be remiss not to point out my predecessor. I've been the director of athletics at Wheaton for 4 years. My predecessor, Julie Davis, really did a lot of the heavy lifting to get this in the campaign. Candidly, I've gotten to do kind of the fun stuff, which is to share a vision for the facility itself, do some fundraising, and get to be the athletics director when this facility opens. And so it's humbling, it's historic, it's an honor. But there were a lot of people who put in work prior to my arrival in this position.
Are there some alum who are coming back for this groundbreaking? I mean, are there some names that people would know?
Yeah, that's absolutely there. I don't know if there'll be names that people would know, but it's also, we have alumni events here for graduation weekend, and so we will have some significant alums. Randy Fund, who was at one time head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers and GM and vice president of the Miami Heat, is on campus. I saw him. Jay Miller, who at one time was with the Texas Rangers organization, he's back on campus as well. So we do have some pretty accomplished people that will be back and be here for the groundbreaking ceremony. So yes.
And what do you think that does for the students and especially the student athletes when those types of folks come back and share in these types of moments?
Yeah, I think it's motivating, right? I think I think that, the generosity of people who have come before to affirm both their experience as a Wheaton College student athlete and the fact that they want to give back to it and make sure that the current student athlete's experience is enhanced and affirmed. I think that's something that's pretty exciting for our student athletes, and certainly, these individuals have been pretty involved with Wheaton athletics all along. So a lot of our student athletes know these people already, but it is affirming that they would choose to be a part of this day.
Well, super cool. And again, congratulations on it all. What a moment for Wheaton College today that will really, open the door for many things for many years to come. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, everyone, it's 1:45. Stick with us. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. It's 1:47 right now. I did promise you that as often as we get a live picture of that procession for Officer John Bartholomew, that we would try to get to it here. And you can see members of the community that have come out. Before we were looking at the view from high up above, and this is from the ground as you're seeing some of the units go by. And look at all those people who have lined the streets with their American flags to just show support for the Chicago Police Department and for the immediate family of Officer John Bartholomew today on this solemn day. On the right-hand side is actually a fire engine from Elmwood Park. We talked about the fact that first responder community came out today. This is a good example of that from near and far. We have seen both police officers, ISP, troopers, firefighters, and if you think about the fact that, the police officers showed up for firefighters just last month when they lost one of their own, firefighter EMT Altman. Many first responders came out for that from near and far to support the Chicago Fire Department. And now on such an unfortunate occasion, they return that favor, that show of support, coming out to support CPD as they escort the body of one of their own to his final resting place. I believe that this is Thatcher Avenue where they are now as a part of this procession here that started, of course, at shortly after the services today from the St. Andrew's Greek Orthodox Church, the service that started at 10 a.m. So it's been quite the journey for many people today. They will be headed to Elmwood Cemetery in River Grove. So again, it's a long day for them, but it's an important moment for them, and it's a really wonderful thing to see so many people in the community come out to show their support. Again, as we get these live pictures from different vantage points, we will show them to you. We will not be filming anything at the Elmwood Cemetery. That will be a private burial ceremony, but we're just showing you the pictures along the way. Again, this is Thatcher Avenue as the police procession for Officer John Bartholomew goes now to the Elmwood Cemetery in River Grove, and just seeing all of the first responders that even those who are maybe not a part of the procession who have stood firm in their support of CPD today to come out, flags at half-mast, to show support today, as CPD has done for many of them when they have experienced the same. We are going to continue on with our conversations here on Chicago Live, and this next one, it's a bit of a doozy. Let me just say it that way. It's a bit of a doozy. We're talking about a brain-eating amoeba. And so we had to call on somebody with some real good knowledge about this, which would not be many people. But we have a director of the Thermal Biology Institute at Montana State University, the co-author of this new study, Dr. Brent Payton, who is joining us. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And sharing your knowledge with us as well. Tell us about this. So I'm reading that it's rare, but it has been found in recreational waters at several Western national parks.
Yeah, it's a very rare disease, actually, but we've completed about a 7-year study looking at recreational waters in national parks here in the West. And about 34% of the springs that we tested and the recreational waters that we tested have this brain-eating amoeba in it, Naegleria fowleri.
I mean, what do people need to know about it? Should they just stay out of the water? I mean, we're talking about very well visited, very popular places: Lake Mead, Grand Teton, Yellowstone. So what should people know?
So basically, the amoeba, the only way for it to get into your body is through your nose, through your nasal cavities. And so if you keep your head out of the water, you shouldn't have any problems. If you hold your nose, if you go underwater, same thing. And actually, Naegleria fowleri is found all over the country, particularly in the south, in swimming water, even in tap water. And so it's an extremely rare disease. We were just trying to characterize where it's found and do kind of a long-term study to see if it's changing locations. But I still swim in hot springs. I swim, just keep your head up.
Okay, just keep your head up. I mean, that's a good way to end the week. Keep your head up,
Keep your head up.
But so are we thinking then that it is shifting where you've seen it in those 7 years, or you've seen it fairly concentrated?
So we haven't seen it really shift much in the 7 years. The shifting that seems to be happening is in the fatal cases. It appears over the last 20 years or so, there's more fatal cases moving to the north and the west. And so that is sort of what we've seen. But that's not really the focus of this particular study that we just finished.
Mm-hmm. So tell me, was there anything that was startling to you in this latest study? Anything that that kind of jumped out at you that you thought was an anomaly?
There are some springs that have pretty high concentrations of this fowleri. We're trying to figure out what causes the high concentrations, whether it's certain microorganisms that they eat, whether it's temperature, whether, not sure what it is. The thing that was startling to me was that we only found it in 34% of the recreational waters that we looked at. I expected it to be more common than it was.
Very interesting.
The other thing that really surprises me is, given how common it is across the U.S. and across the world, there's still very, very few cases. So it's highly unlikely, but very tragic if it does happen. But it's highly unlikely.
And we hope that no one who is watching, no one who's listening ever experiences that. But give me an idea of what that is like. Okay, let's say someone jumps in the water, they're not holding their nose. Do you have to be under the water for a set amount of time for these to get in your system?
No, it basically, if the water somehow shoots up your nose, like it's occurred at a water park where the water shoots straight off the ground, basically ground level, and hit somebody in the nose. It can happen very quickly, but just if you jump off a dock, I would recommend holding your nose when you go in. It's a common practice in Australia, where we really started studying this with my collaborator, Jeff Pouzon. In the outback, they said they were just raised being told as kids to hold your nose if you jump in the water.
Okay. Is it only fresh water?
I believe so. I don't know how much. I haven't ever done anything with the marine waters to know.
Okay. And then
Good question, though.
if it gets in your system, you jump in. If you don't hold your nose, it gets in your system. How long before you start to have like symptoms, and what are those symptoms you would start to have?
The symptoms can look like a variety of other things. It happens maybe in 7 days. It turns out that it's 97% fatal. Only like 4 people have ever survived the disease.
Oh my goodness.
And so it's difficult to identify as well. And so the best way is just to prevent, wear nose clips, hold your nose, keep your head above water, those kinds of things.
Oh my goodness. And how long before the tragedy, in the situations that you have seen, how long did that take from being in the water, having a wonderful time to, life-ending circumstances?
Maybe 10 days, something like that. So it can be, it is tragic. And, we get news reports of cases, and they're pretty, you hear about them because it happens so suddenly.
10 days, my. Do you think that climate change, are you all looking into how climatological changes are affecting these types of things?
We are not actually looking at climate change. The climate change work was done by a previous researcher. We have noticed that the number of that cases seem to be moving north and west in the U.S. Whether that's a global phenomenon or not, we've just focused on some of the recreational waters in the Northwest, but some observers think that it may be climate change.
What were some of your other observations looking at the recreational waters?
Basically the waters that are the most comfortable for swimming, like hot springs, just the right temperature where it's really toasty but feels good. That's essentially where this Naegleria fowleri likes to live. The number of cases in the Lake Mead area has gone up quite a bit, and so the Las Vegas water supply and recreational water area, they've hired a number of researchers to try to help sort some of this out. So far, we haven't seen any cases in Yellowstone or Grand Teton. So hopeful that just doesn't happen. But those are the main things that we've seen.
Mm-hmm. And what more would you like to learn? What more would you like to study about these waters? What more are you interested in that that we could be finding about down the road?
We're trying to figure out what microorganisms, so they eat bacteria that live in these hot springs, trying to figure out what bacteria they're eating and what organisms they live with, so that we can use that as a better screening tool for environments that might be susceptible to these types of amoeba getting in there and thriving. So we've got a bunch of samples that we're in the process of analyzing to see if we can find some common patterns that may correlate with the presence of these the fowleri, brain-eating amoeba.
And we're looking at some of our chat lines as we're talking to you. One of our viewers is asking, is it a risk to animals? I mean, obviously they can't hold their noses.
I think there are some cases where animals have been infected, and there are some other amoeba that infect other animals. And so, yes, it is possible, again, but it's a fairly rare occurrence.
Okay, fairly rare. We like to hear, but the rest of this is a little, concerning for all. But you said you're still hopping in the water. Just hold our nose, keep our head above water would be even better.
Yep, I still love sitting in hot springs, and I do it very regularly, and just keep your head above water. Or even if you want to get wet, hold your nose when you go under.
Okay. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time and, again, sharing your expertise today.
Okay, thank you for having me.
Have a good weekend.
You too.
2:01, everyone. Give us 2 minutes, and then I'll set you up for where we're going in the second hour. But I'll go ahead and give you a preview if you were thinking of 1 hour is enough. The one and only Avi Loeb is coming up very soon. Welcome back, everyone. It's just about 2:04 right now. Thanks so much for staying with us. Let me tell you about some of the things we're getting to in this second hour here on our Friday for Chicago Live. We're going to talk about the big canvas hack. Oh my goodness. First thing today, we heard about this. Universities all over the country, including here in Illinois, that we're having to take some pretty drastic measures at the end of the school year as this hack, finding out about this hack, this massive data breach targeting a system widely used by students and faculty. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what happened, what we know at this point about what's happening from here, if there's any way to prevent it. I mean, we'll dive into that because that was a pretty big shocker first thing this morning all across the country. Also, we're going to talk about the wetlands and flooding. We have, especially in the month of April, not so much as we've started May, but certainly for the month of April, we had some significant rain events, so much so that we had plenty of friends and neighbors and communities that were having to get out sandbags to prevent the rising water from getting into homes. And we do, have reports of some people that had water getting into their homes. And so we're hearing from, conservation efforts about wetlands and how that plays into some of the things that we are seeing or would play into what we could see down the road if things were maybe done differently when it comes to those types of efforts. So we'll talk with the Vice President of Land Management about that coming up shortly. That should be a very interesting conversation about, again, the wetlands and the flooding that so many people have experienced over the last month. Those conversations to come. I did tell you we're also momentarily going to be speaking with Harvard professor, much beloved Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb. But while we're waiting on him, I want to take you back to the final resting place of Officer John Bartholomew. The casket just went inside of the cemetery. As I mentioned in the 1 o'clock hour, it will be a private ceremony from here. So I just wanted to give you one more look because this will be our final look of the ceremonies that are taking place for today to honor this hero to the city of Chicago who lost his life so tragically last month. His end of watch was April 25th. So they have continued on into the cemetery, and our thoughts and prayers will continue on for the family of Officer John Bartholomew and the Chicago Police Department on this solemn occasion. But Avi Loeb is here with us, and I think words today were uttered that some people have waited decades on hearing, and that is that the Pentagon has started releasing never-before-seen files relating to unidentified anomalous phenomena. Thank you so much for joining us again. What are your thoughts on this big development today?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's a special day. And President Trump referred to the UFO file release with the words, have fun and enjoy. And indeed, this is exactly what the Galileo Project research team under my leadership did today. We looked through the files and, there is new information, new data there. It's probably not the most intriguing data that the US government has because that will take more time to be declassified. But at any event, science is the privilege of staying curious and asking important questions. And, Enrico Fermi asked in 1950, where is everybody? And this is not a philosophical question. It's a scientific question that can be addressed based on data. And the answer might be right here. And so the US government released the first batch of public UFO and UAP files. And it includes 162 records altogether, 82 of them from the Department of War, 56 from the FBI, 12 from NASA, and 8 from the State Department. So we're dealing with information related to very serious people that are mostly focused on national security, and they see or notice objects that they cannot figure out. And I hope that this will bring this subject to the mainstream. It will not be ridiculed or sidelined, because it's a serious matter. If we are being visited by objects from adversarial nations, we need to know about it. We need to figure them out. And if it's not human-made, then that will be the biggest discovery ever made by science. So altogether, it's exciting. It's like a detective story where we're trying to figure out what the data means. And, you know, among the different files, there are images from the Apollo 12 and 17 missions to the moon, and they show lights above the horizon. The question is whether these lights might be related to flares from impact of asteroids. It could also be potentially related to reflections within the optics of the camera. So it's not clear that we are dealing with something really extraordinary. And there are also some videos and images in various places around the Earth showing objects behaving in ways that are quite unusual. But unfortunately, some of the information is redacted, so we can't really tell. I would say everything that was released today, you know, is intriguing, but it's not conclusive. It doesn't show with beyond any reasonable doubt that we are looking at something out of this world. Nevertheless, you know, there are also documents going all the way back to 1947 regarding flying discs. There is a letter that was sent to the Chief of Staff of the Air Force back in 1947. You know, that was shortly after the Roswell incident, and discussing flying discs. And this means that you know, military personnel for decades were reporting about this. It was never taken seriously enough for this to become a mainstream subject. And now perhaps is the time, thanks to the initiative by President Trump.
The true age of disclosure. Right.
And, you know, like in any detective story, the question is, I mean, the most important aspect of the story is what does the data show? What does the evidence show? We shouldn't have a prejudice. We should just look at it with a sense of curiosity. And that's what makes it fun. It's work in progress. And as we go into the weeks ahead, there will be more and more files released. And my hope is that at some point, there will be very intriguing objects that we can't really explain as human-made.
Okay, so thus far, you said that, you know, you're the Galileo project, that your researchers, you all have already started looking over, you know, certain things. Anything that caught your eye as odd, or more so just, okay, well, you know, I'm going to set this to the side, revisit that, or like, yeah, I kind of knew about that?
Yeah, so indeed, the Galileo project is monitoring millions of objects right now. We have 3 observatories. And we are looking at an object from different directions, so we can figure out its distance, velocity, acceleration. And that allows us to ask whether the motion of the object can be reproduced by human-made technologies. That kind of sophistication, this kind of data is not available from the release today. But in the future, if we do see objects that are outside the performance envelope of human-made technologies, obviously we'll let the public know, and that would, of course, trigger more data because a lot of people will be curious about it. So far, we haven't seen an object that we can definitely say without any doubt that behaves outside what we can imagine based on human-made technologies. But, you know, the government was collecting data for decades, and they have a much larger budget. You know, the defense budget for 2026 was $1 trillion. So there is presumably much more interesting stuff with it that is hidden from view right now. And hopefully in the coming weeks, it will be declassified. But irrespective of what the government did, and, you know, they did it as part of their effort to secure national safety of the nation. Irrespective of that, there needs to be a scientific research program trying to figure out what such incidents are, these unusual objects that the government cannot figure out. And at the end of the day, it might well be that we can explain all of them scientifically as human-made things or natural phenomena, but it may also be the case that 1 out of a million would be intriguing, and that will be the next revolution in science.
You use the term adversarial. How do you know we don't have friendly aliens that are watching us?
Oh, I was referring to humans as potentially adversarial. That's what the intelligence agencies and the Pentagon are always worried about, adversarial nations. Mm-hmm. With respect to our dating partner, in this blind date of interstellar proportions, we have no idea. I mean, it's most likely that they are not out to kill us, because they could have done it long ago, and they haven't done so. But we should always, open our eyes and check what their intentions might be if we find any evidence for a probe nearby. My hope is that it will bring us to a better place, because we would recognize new technologies, new science that we are not aware of, because presumably they're more advanced than we are if they arrived at our backyard before we arrived at their backyard. It will also inspire us to explore space, and it will change the way we view ourselves. If we are not at the top of the food chain, we should be more humble. Also, it will change our perspective. Instead of engaging in conflicts here on Earth, this sounds childish when you think about the big picture of the universe, because there is much more real estate out there, and we keep being obsessed with the resources here on this planet. And so it will be a wake-up call for us to realize that there is much more out there, and perhaps it will inspire us to work together, because we are all in the same boat, on this planet. And rather than waste energy, resources, time, and lives on conflicts, we should do better by regarding ourselves as all members of the same family, the human family, the human civilization here. So if we do recognize a neighbor, that would define us better and will give us aspirations beyond our geopolitics of the day. And so my hope is it will bring us to a better place. And that's why I'm pursuing this. I mean, there aren't many questions in science that can do the same.
I did ask you about, what you all have seen so far. I didn't really hear you mention, what was the most important or most significant thing that you've seen so far?
Well, we looked at the videos and the images. Oh, you're talking about the Galileo project.
For the files today.
For the files today, yes. My research team, we went through all of the data that was released, and unfortunately, in many cases, there were reductions, so we couldn't really infer what the actual velocity or what is the time that elapsed when we're looking at the video, what is the distance of the objects we're looking at from the camera, what was the camera doing, was it attached to an airplane or something else. And all these uncertainties did not allow us to come to a conclusion that we're looking at something unusual. I mean, in many cases, we might have been looking at a balloon or, in one case, even a bug, or in another case, perhaps a laser beam moving. It wasn't clear what we're looking at. So I would say that the current release is full of uncertainties and ambiguities. We can't really say whether there is anything out of this world, but it's the opening shot in a long journey. It's the first step, and in the coming weeks we'll get much more intriguing data that will inspire us to do more research into it. For example, there are 46 videos that were requested from the Pentagon by Congresswoman Ana Paulina Luna, and presumably they will be released in the next batch, the next release that hopefully will be within a week or so.
Okay, and that was going to be my final question. So you think we'll get the next release in about a week?
Well, that's what we were told on the internet, but time will tell, because in the past we waited for much longer than expected. I mean, President Trump said very, very soon, and it took a few weeks for it. But now that the first release took place, then I think we might have a steady stream in the coming weeks of new information, and that makes it exciting. And obviously there will be the film of Steven Spielberg, Disclosure Day, coming out in June. And my hope is that Disclosure Day will come in reality, because nature is much more imaginative than even Steven Spielberg.
Well, my. Maybe we'll be talking to you again in a week, or maybe a little bit longer, but it sounds like we'll be speaking with you very, very soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, as always. We appreciate you, Professor Loeb.
Thanks.
All right, take care. It's 2:20, everyone. We're going to take 2 minutes, and then we'll get to our next conversation about the flooding that's been happening in our area and the wetlands. It's 2:22 right now, and our next guest is a part of an effort that works year-round to protect wetlands and surrounding watersheds. And, this conversation is so needed right now, as we've just seen so much flooding along the Fox River, the Des Plaines River, to hear the voices involved in these types of efforts. We want to bring in the Vice President of Land Management, Michael Dugan. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
What was going through your mind as you were hearing or seeing the reporting on over the last month about the flooding for the Fox River and Des Plaines River?
Yeah, we're just really starting to feel a lot of really intense storms coming in our spring seasons, in which we're getting a lot of rain at once, and it's really starting to overtake and inundate our water systems.
So how would wetlands, healthy wetlands, change what we're seeing?
Yeah, wetlands are a land type that typically throughout the year store and hold water. We find these wetlands next to a lot of our large water bodies, a lot of next to a lot of our river systems. So their natural system, the way that they're set up, as we get these intense storms or even regular precipitation events, water enters into these landscapes and it moves a lot slower than it would as opposed to coming off of a roof or a parking lot or a street. And then as it slows down, it's able to actually hold onto that water and slowly release it out into our river systems and other systems so that we don't get these big flashes of flooding and water.
And so when we talk about ongoing efforts to protect the wetlands, what does that look like? Michael, are you there? I think that his picture may have frozen for us. I was really wanting to hear a little bit more about what exactly they are doing to protect the wetlands. I know that they are advocating for a state bill that would restore the protections of our wetlands that they say we need. It's the Protect Illinois Water Coalitions that delivered 12,000 petitions for this. Michael, are you back with me?
I am back. Sorry about that.
Okay. No, I was just asking about what protecting the wetlands, what you all's efforts actually look like. What are you all doing?
So we actually work on the ground as one of the leading restoration entities here in Northern Illinois, in which we go and we restore wetlands to their previous function. And then we also work on promoting bills and other advocacy to get better protections around our wetlands. We only have about 10% left in our state from previous highs.
How do you restore them? What do you have to do to restore them?
Oh, we need to restore the hydrology, which is the fancy word of how water moves through the system. Our wetlands are often very interesting in way the contours of the land work, so restoring that hydrology. We've done a lot of work filling in and draining our wetlands. So often there are drain tiles or sort of French drains almost underneath some of our lands to drain them, to use them for agriculture. And we've also filled in some of our wetlands so that we could build on them. We historically have not really realized the benefit that our wetlands provide, seeing as them sort of an area like a swamp or a bog full of water, couldn't really do much with it. But now we're really starting to understand the benefits that they give us.
And why do you think people, let me say it this way. I do think that most people really don't understand the fullness of not just the efforts to protect the wetlands, but even the importance of that. Would you agree?
I would agree. I think that if people fully understood all the benefits that they give us, not just wildlife, but people, especially in an increasingly developed region in which we're putting in more parking lots, more roads, more infrastructure, how important it is to have these spaces to help control flooding, in which we've lost the majority of them in our state. And as we're going to start to see more and more of these weather impacts, we really need to think about restoring, protecting, and even expanding them.
Mm-hmm. Talk about more of the everyday benefits that maybe people don't realize.
Well, we were just talking about the importance in flooding and the way that wetlands essentially act as a giant sponge, right? Collecting and slowing down that water, but it also takes that water and cleans it. A lot of the water that we have in these large rain events or even regular rain events are carrying sediment and other pollutants that we find in our built environment. And as they're able to sit there and move through the vegetation and the soil, we actually are able to pull some of that out. Water temperature is also pretty important. As the water filters through the soil, it actually cools down, which is important for the natural workings of our river systems. And then they're also a big source of recreation. Anyone who likes hunting, fishing, boating, you're probably interacting in some way with a wetland ecosystem.
You mentioned the fact that we only have about 10% left. What is that compared to? Like for across our region, I'm sure you all have conversations with other conservationists in other states. is 10% normal? Is it below average? I mean, what are we looking at? Okay, I think his picture froze again. Hopefully we can get him back. If not, we'll just move on here. But I really wanted to know about the comparison. Like, when you hear 10%, it sounds horrible, but what is that like compared to other states? Michael, I think you're back with us, so can you answer that? Like, what comparatively, our 10%, what is that like?
Well, our region, historically, we used to have lots and lots more wetlands. Still do, and had the biodiversity that could rival anywhere else around the world. This is sort of what drew people to our region. That's why people were able to come here. And so to be losing about 90% to a lot of agriculture, a lot of development, it'll be really important that we hold on to it. This is something that it's super hard to get a wetland system or even a small area of wetlands back in good function after we've lost it.
Okay, and for you all's efforts in terms of lobbying for these efforts, what type of pushback do you get, and what type of progress are you hoping for?
I think we're starting to see a lot more understanding and progress, unfortunately, after we get some of these big weather events that start to get flooding and start to really affect people's lives, their homes. We're shutting down transportation corridors. It's just kind of becoming a big topic. I mean, we're here talking about it now. I think the pushback just comes from not understanding the full benefits that our wetlands give us, that we do need them in order to continue to be able to mitigate a lot of our big damages that come through with flooding.
Michael, we appreciate you joining us today. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. It's about 2:31. Everyone give us 2 minutes. We'll be back. We're going to talk about that Canvas hack. Welcome back, everyone. 2:33 right now. Woke up this morning, and you just see a lot of institutions of higher learning in a panic because of this Canvas hack. And so we're getting more information about where we are at this point in time and some background from a former FBI special agent and retired U.S. Navy commander and Navy pilot, Richard Kolko, who is joining us now. Thank you so much for your time.
You bet, Anita. Thanks for having me here.
Oh, what were your thoughts when you first heard this?
Yeah, kids are scared. They were told they're going to have to take their tests on paper and pencil, and that's something these age kids never have done. So, but nothing, no good news here besides a little giggle at that.
Yeah, I mean, do you think we're just going to see more and more of these?
We are seeing more and more of them. You're not hearing about all of them. A lot of the issue with the ransomware is a lot of the organizations that get hit by this, which seems to be predominantly schools, hospitals, government organizations. They don't want to broadcast it, so you don't hear about it. They keep it quiet. But this group that did it, Shiny Hunters, based overseas, mostly out of sight of U.S. law enforcement, and so they can do it with impunity, and they get away with it, and they make millions. They've been doing it for 6-7 years. And if you look at the list of places they've attacked and hacked, it's global. They've got millions of dollars, and unfortunately, they're good at what they do.
Wow. And I know you spent 20 years conducting investigations and leading national security operations. Do you think there is a dedicated effort that could curtail what they're doing?
No, cyber hackers are not going to go away. We have to do our best to try and keep up with them. They're always a step ahead. In this case, what they've done is they've broken into Canvas. And as many of your viewers may understand, Canvas is a system used by schools to transmit quizzes, tests, study materials, messaging, things like that. It's a good system, but there's a vulnerability, obviously. Almost 9,000 schools, tens, if not hundreds of millions of people were affected, and billions of direct messages. And what the goal of all the cyber hackers is always one of two things: get your identity for identity theft, or get your money. And I think if they get your identity, they can get your money. So that's their goal here. Right now, they didn't get everything. They got the names, emails, messages, useful information for them. What they could do now is what's called a targeted phishing attack. It's when you get one of those emails that has a link on it, and you click on that link, puts malware on your computer, boom, you're a victim. So that's a problem. But now, because of what you're maybe saying in DMs, you're saying some specific stuff. Say you sent a friend, I got a new dog, I named him Rex. Okay, well, a year from now, this group, Shiny Hunters, may use some AI, find that DM, which says your dog's name is Rex. They know what university you went to. They even know some of the classes you took. And they send you an email saying, oh, this is your old buddy from that Econ 101 class. How's your dog, Rex? Well, that sounds pretty darn legitimate to you. You click on that link. That's the problem. So everybody's got to be careful.
So what happened today could have consequences for years to come?
Absolutely. I've gotten those data breach letters. You know, your information gets out there, and you look at it and go, gosh darn it, I can't believe they got it again. And it seems you get several of those a year, and they offer you the credit monitoring. So, but you think about it, the people my age, they've got our information somewhere, which is unfortunate, but they need new clients. So now they've got all these young students. They don't have all the information they need, but there's reports here that they got up to 275 million people's some information. That's building blocks for later. So as the years go by, they'll get more information on some of these young people. They'll have a whole new group of people that they can target to try and get their money or get their identity and cause problems down the road. It's just not going to go away. And AI is making them better at their job, and they can implement AI right away, whereas the government, law enforcement, intelligence community has to take a time to vet it, make sure it works for them, follows different sets of rules. So that always puts government and law enforcement a couple steps behind, and that's going to be a problem forever.
Do you think we're going to see like a slew of lawsuits from these students?
I'm not sure who they can sue. It depends if they can identify where the vulnerability was. in the old days, which is just a couple of years ago, for somebody like Shiny Hunters, they would look for vulnerabilities in different computer systems, and they would take a whole room of hackers to be looking. Now with AI, there's certain programs that they can launch. One or two people can just hit send on their computer, and there's tens of millions of computers here involved with this hack. 9,000 schools times how many thousands of students, so how many computers, and they could quickly, within maybe minutes, find the 500 computers whose security is not up to date. Now they've got their vulnerabilities, boom, they get in there, they can take over the whole system, and that's kind of what happened here.
But are they targeting the school's system where the school would be liable for not protecting the students' personal information, or is it them targeting the students individually?
Good question. I think they're targeting the students. They're targeting the information. They want 275 million people potentially affected by this, which that number sounds absolutely enormous, but there's a lot of other hacks and attacks that have gotten equal numbers of people. So it's a big number, but not the first time that it happened. So there'll be an investigation to try and find out what the vulnerability was so that it doesn't happen again, or they can shut it down. But people seem to think that law enforcement, cyber companies or computer companies, intelligence community, that everybody's going to keep you safe from this kind of thing happening. And the government is working very hard to try and keep you safe. But you've got personal responsibility to try and do that as well. There are things that you have to do yourself. You've got to change your passwords. You've got to use two-person authentication. You've got to check those credit reports. You've got to download those security updates that you get from your computer. All of those are inconvenient. None of us want to do them, but you got to do them. That's the best thing you can do to help protect yourself, protect your information.
And when we talk about this being maybe coming from another country, are we concerned, especially like at this point that we're in a conflict, a well-known conflict with Iran, that this could be coming from somewhere like that could access information that could be helpful in this type of situation?
Well, might be going down two paths with this question, but you're 100% right. Iran has very good cyber attacking capabilities. The U.S. is vulnerable. Iran has been launching attacks against U.S. entities and government organizations and private folks, and there's a lot of work being done by law enforcement and the intelligence community to stop them. And from what we've at least seen on the surface, they've been successful. They haven't been able to attack our infrastructure, which is banking and water systems and power systems and things like that. There's actually 16 different elements that fall into that infrastructure, critical infrastructure umbrella in the United States. And the U.S. works very, very hard and very, very successfully to protect them. But every now and then somebody gets in. So Iran could do this. And the issue there, just expanding on that, is Iran can have tentacles into other countries. So even though Iran might not have internet access or have power issue problems or people not around to it, they have people in other countries that can launch attacks on their behalf. So yeah, definitely a problem. But this group, Shiny Hunters, looks like they might be coming from Indonesia or somewhere else out that direction. But they're not all sitting in one room in one place. They can be in different places around the world and coordinate one of these attacks, and they did it.
It's so scary. And I mean, the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, even had to postpone their finals, which typically, the students would be really excited about, but not in this type of situation where, your information could have been stolen here. So do they then just provide, they send out, a notice to all the students that, get protection for your information like we typically get in the mail? Or I mean, how do these universities handle this moving forward?
Well, they've got notification rules. They have to notify the students, I believe. In most cases, depending on the university or college, they're required to notify the parents as well. They may list the information that they think was taken by this hacking group. And although Canvas appears to be up and running again, or at least partially, they already got the data. The issue is they're trying to keep Canvas down so they can get the ransom money. But it almost doesn't matter because they've got the data and they can now threaten to sell it, release it, do whatever. So it's a problem. The FBI is always going to say don't pay the ransom because it doesn't really work. but some organizations or companies may choose to pay it. That happens as well. And I'd love to give you some good news, but as far as cyber attacks and hacks, they're not going away. We just got to get better at protecting ourselves. And law enforcement, intelligence community has to keep up the good fight, and they are working on that. It's a big thing when you go into these organizations. You see how hard they're working to try and protect America.
My. We appreciate their efforts. Hope that they can start to cut down on some of these. It feels really sad when we say this is like an inevitable truth that we're just going to have to deal with these moving forward.
Yeah, well, if you go back to the 1930s when the gangsters were robbing the banks, and I forgot which gangster it was, they asked him, why do you rob the banks? He said, that's where the money is. So it's the same kind of thing here. Why are the cyber attackers and hackers doing what they're doing? Because that's where the information is. So they're trying to get it. They're going to get it in some cases, and they're going to exploit it, and it's going to cost us money.
Okay. All right. Richard, we appreciate you coming on the show. A little bit of, we can't help but to be a Debbie Downer on this one, but we need this information. So thank you.
You do, but again, you have to, there are things we want the government to do, but there are things that you can do yourself. Mm-hmm. And I ask people all the time, when's the last time you changed your passwords? Do you use a simple password? Do you use one password for all the systems? And I'm embarrassed to tell you how many times people say I didn't change it, or I use the same password, or whatever it is. They just, that's not their fault. That's their fault. I will say that's their fault. That makes them more vulnerable to these attacks. You have to do the things you can to protect yourself. The two-factor authentication. Oh, where did I put down my phone? I got to find the code they sent me. Yeah, you do. You do, because you want to protect your information. You want to protect your identity, and you want to protect your money. So take some effort, do it. And that's the same advice we've heard for years. You got to do it. Oh, and don't click on the links. That's the other thing. Everybody gets these links. They think they're legit. They sound legit. They look legit. If you don't know where it came from, if you know who it was, call them. Say, did you send me something? Or if you want to email them from a different system. But before you click on that link, which does a whole bunch of things, it shows your email address is valid. So they can sell that email address in the dark web for more hackers to come out and get you. And if you open that link and it does have malware, you've now infected your system, and that can infect anybody else you're communicating with. So it can spread like wildfire. So I know it's a hassle, but take the steps, be careful, protect yourself, protect your family, protect your money, protect your identity.
Richard, thank you. We'll maybe sleep a little bit better. Maybe.
As long as you have a new password by tomorrow, you'll sleep a little better.
There you go. All right. There you go. That's a good way to end. Yeah. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. 2:46, everyone. 2 minutes. I don't know if that's enough time to think of a new password, but we're going to be back in 2 minutes to talk a little bit about our forecast out there while you start to mull over it at the very least. back, everyone. 2:48, and Mark Strel is in the house.
Right on the dot.
On the dot. Let's talk a little bit about this forecast out there. We've got the sun shining down at least over us right here.
You know, it's funny because if you go over by the lake, there's a little bit of lake fog, and it's a little cooler if you're right along the lake today. So, you know, it depends on where your footsteps are.
Yeah. The true cooler by the lake.
Oh, no doubt about it.
Forecast, yeah.
And we've got some 70s. Oh, there you go. You know, not so much fog here at the moment, but a couple of hours ago, there was fog kind of coming right up just about the Lakeshore Drive.
Really?
But look at those clouds. Isn't that a great looking picture?
And one little boat out there
testing
out the water.
Is that your boat out there?
Yeah, well, you know, I like to keep it a little, you know.
You know, it's not about having a boat. It's about having friends who have
There
a boat.
you go.
Right?
So you can skip the maintenance.
Do you know what BOAT stands for? You know, it's an acronym.
What?
Bust out another 1,000.
On maintenance, yeah. So what's going on this weekend? I mean, I feel like whenever we do have the kind of topsy-turvy weather,
Which
people
is
are
what we've had, right?
itching to get out.
Right. Well, it should be a pretty good weekend. And let's just get right to the headline. Mother's Day looks
you
dry.
go.
A little bit of sunshine. So we got that for going for us.
Clear for the mamas. Everything else can, you know,
nice.
fall in place.
So tomorrow, 70s, 60s on Sunday, and then we're in the 50s on Monday, and of course Mondays with all the sunshine. So tomorrow, kind of a sun-cloud mixture. Temperatures of 73, still a pretty nice day. A little bit cooler on Monday, but you know, Mom will be able to wear her shawl and her bonnet.
Brand new.
Yeah,
Brand new.
I don't know what section of the department store they keep shawls in, but you know, if Mom does have a shawl, 57 degrees on Monday.
Most people are ordering it online anyway. So.
Is that right? Here's what's going on. We've got some showers down to our south. Things are pretty quiet here. There is just a teeny tiny chance of a sprinkle, maybe an isolated shower around northern Illinois tomorrow, like maybe 15-20% chance. So I'm not even really playing that up in the forecast. Our forecast models, though, are hinting at some rainfall. But again, mostly tomorrow night. And then here we go into Sunday with dry conditions. So tonight we're down to 50 degrees, partly cloudy skies. And then the 7-day forecast, again, 70s on Saturday, 60s on Sunday, 50s, but almost 60 on Monday. And then kind of stormy and unsettled there for Tuesday. Could see some stronger thunderstorms, especially south of the city. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we're in the 60s. You know, you're talking about bobbing up, bobbing down. Look at that. We go from the low 60s again to the low 70s to the low 60s. So we're kind of, you know, this weather is just, you know, just itching for you to have a cold.
It really is.
Right?
What I think tomorrow the Buckingham Fountain comes back
You know,
on.
I was wondering that because I was driving by today wondering, I wonder when the Buckingham Fountain comes out.
I think I saw that
Really?
it's tomorrow. Yeah.
kidding.
And that's always such a like, okay.
Yeah.
All right now.
That's when it's like, hey, it's really here.
Yeah.
It might not be here at the moment, but you know, we're not worried about the pipes freezing anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a definitive like little click in our minds.
We've got a couple of little clicks. You know, we were talking earlier about St. Patrick's Day. Even though St. Patrick's Day, sometimes it's cold, sometimes there could even be some
I
snowflakes.
think it snowed. Yeah. It
Yeah,
snowed.
but that's the first kind of like, hey, we're busting out.
Yeah.
We don't care if it's 43 degrees.
Spring
we're
is on the
busting out.
way.
It's on the way, and we're all going to come out in the tens of thousands. And then you kind of get to like Mother's Day, and then Turn the Fountain On Day, and then you get to
Definitely
you know,
Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's when it's all on,
Yeah.
full on.
Yeah. So we're not too far away from that, but it does feel like we're turning a tide.
Yes, we're tide turning. Yes, we are.
We're getting there. We're getting there,
Sounds
everybody.
like I'm doing laundry.
I mean, exactly. That's what I was thinking the same. You know, we've seen or are seeing in your forecast like little dots of like, okay, instability in the system. Or, we had some crazy weather in other parts of the country this week. So what are you seeing out there that maybe may be a talker into the weekend?
Well, you know, mostly we've been kind of focusing on what's happening here, so it is pretty decent here.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's always one of those things when you're planning travel, you always got to kind of look at both ends of the pipeline to see what's going on. And, you know, especially in the springtime, there's so much volatility because you have basically two seasons fighting back and forth for dominance. Now, obviously, winter is getting its booty kicked, which is a good thing.
Well,
but that warmer
Colorado got
temperatures.
that snow at the beginning of the week.
Yeah, and that's not unusual to have spring snow there. Even late spring snow, especially in some of the higher elevations. So even if you look at Denver, Denver's, mile high city.
Yeah.
That's 10 times higher than we are here, basically.
Yeah.
So, and you get up into the mountains, the snows aren't melting in the mountains until sometimes late July,
Yeah.
and then by late August, sometimes it's snowing again already.
Meanwhile, Mississippi had the tornado outbreak.
Right, right. And so, especially down south where we have cooler temperatures that are interacting with warm Gulf moist warm air. Now, Mississippi typically has a lot of tornadoes, even January and February, early on. That's where that boundary tends to set up. And then we tend to have it here in the Midwest more in the springtime. And then as you go northern Minnesota, into Minnesota and northern Wisconsin, that tornado season tends to be more like July. Again, that's where that boundary sets up between the cold and the warmer temperatures. So yeah, it's further proof that tornadoes can happen 365 days a year, any location, day or night.
Yeah. Well, we certainly hope that things will continue to kind of, even if, we need a little rain every now and then, but maybe not as much as like we had last month.
We could do without, it's funny because my farmer friends tell me that, yeah, we definitely needed the rain, but you know what, we could use a little bit of a break, and we should have had it a little earlier so that we can get in the fields and plant, because so many places are still a little bit behind the curve in terms of planting.
And when you say planting, so this weekend will be, everyone says like wait until after Mother's Day to really do the planting in your yards around here.
Well, and yeah, that's kind of the old standby for Chicago. And by planting, now you could have put other things like carrots and potatoes, anything of those in already. But you're talking about some of the tender vegetation like your, tomatoes mostly and things like that. Maybe some of your, your annuals. It's kind of funny. About 3 weeks ago, two and a half weeks ago, we talked about some frost and we talked about covering up your flowers. And I was driving along the street, and somebody just they went whole hog and had these canvases and blankets all over their yard, and they were all over the flowers that are hardy, that are the early spring flowers. And I'm thinking, you didn't have to cover those up. That's okay. But you know what? You better to be on the
safe than sorry.
Better on the safe.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of very sorrowful looking flowers as of late with the bouts of frost that we have had.
Well, it's kind of funny because this has been a semi-unusual spring in that a lot of the flowers have not been treated well by the weather. On the other hand, the morel mushrooms are off the hook, crazy.
Because of all the rain?
A lot of the folks, and those periods of warm temperatures. So, some folks have said this is the best they've seen in 10 years. So when, certain conditions are right or ripe for some plants and animals and species, maybe they're not right for others, and vice versa. So, this is a harsh climate we live in. And, the plants that are natural here, they've adapted over the years. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for coming up. We know you got to get back down and get ready for the 4 o'clock news. So we'll see you very soon on the TV.
I'll be on the TV.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
2:57, everyone. Give us 2 minutes and then I'll set you up for our 3 o'clock hour, our final hour of the week here on Chicago Live. welcome back, everyone. It's time for our final hour of Chicago Live for the work week. Happy Friday to everyone. We've got plenty to get to before we turn you over to the 4 o'clock news. Right around 3:45, a truly heartwarming story. We love animals around here, and so we love when we get a story about hearts and homes being opened to new furry family members, and we're going to talk about a great story that's coming your way in just a bit. Also, we're going to get an update on some of the other things that are headed your way for 4 o'clock. One including a story about GLP-1s and how it's affecting the wedding industry. Now listen, it's nothing new for a bride to want to be snatched for her wedding day. That's nothing new. But GLP-1s do change the game when it comes to how quickly your body may change its proportions and what that looks like by your wedding day, and the alterations that have to be made along the way. And so we're going to talk, I think that's Casey Cronus who's going to come up and talk to us about the story that she's working on. Really interesting one that's so timely right now. I mean, it's wedding season, and GLP-1s are just one of the biggest talkers. So we'll get into that. But first, from, sizing down to actually expanding. We're talking about the NCAA tournament, and they are, if we thought there was madness before, we are going to 76 teams now. And so Chris Kay, with our own Fox Chicago sports team, is joining us so that we can talk about the pros, the cons, and the hysteria of it all. Thank you so much. I know you guys are super busy, but this is a big talker.
This is a big talker, but it's something that honestly I've been expecting for years. I was kind of surprised it didn't happen last year, because going back to about, I'd say 2022, around that time frame is when I started to hear a lot of college basketball coaches actually coming out of the woodwork and advocating themselves for this specific expansion. And at the time, we're just like, yeah, okay, sure. But now we're like, oh, it's really been an inevitability for the last couple of years, and now it's finally here. And I think if you ask any person on the street, they're going to give you the same exact answer, which is, why? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Okay, so what are the pros? For those who were advocating for this for years, what do they get from this?
So the ones that have been advocating for this for years have been those high major teams, have been like the Florida States and the Missouris back when I was covering Mizzou basketball in another lifetime. Dennis Gates is the head coach of the Missouri Tigers, has always been pounding the table. He's been wanting this for years. His predecessor is one of his mentors at Florida State, Leonard Hamilton, a longtime head coach, was doing the same. I remember when Dennis got hired at Mizzou, we were talking to Leonard, and just unprompted, just completely unprompted, he just goes on this diatribe about how we need to expand the tournament. And all the other reporters were looking around like, why are we talking about this? We're talking about Dennis getting hired at an SEC school, but you start to connect the dots of, well, these high major teams want this because there's this inherent, leniency when it comes to some of these bigger teams. And you saw SMU get into the tournament last year. That's an ACC team. Mm-hmm. They won less than half of their conference games, but they won 20 games. So I'll give them that. If you win 20 games, that's one little flower in your cap. But if you lose half of your conference games, you shouldn't be in the tournament. And we had this debate all March, all February of who should make the tournament. Should it be Miami of Ohio, which went 30-1, only lost one single game, or Auburn, which lost less than 20, which lost over half of its conference games and didn't even win 20 games. We're talking about an Auburn team that won 17-16. If they lost one more game, they're sitting there at 500. Do you know how many 500 teams get in the tournament? Just not many at all. But these high major coaches want this, so it's easier for them to get into the tournament so they can play these bigger games. And I fear, it's one of those things where you look back and say it makes sense if you ask mid-major teams to be a part of the tournament. If you expand the tournament to include, like San Diego State last year, was one of the first four teams out. They won 20. They were 22-11, and went 14-6 in the Mountain West, and they were left out of the tournament. This is going to benefit them for sure, but this is also going to benefit 17-16 Auburn. It's also going to benefit Oklahoma team that went 7-11 in conference play. Also, this Indiana team, which got bounced in the bubble because of Northwestern. They lost Northwestern in the Big Ten tournament. That's when they got left out of the tournament entirely. So this is who it benefits. This is who has been asking for this for years, these high major coaches that want it to be easier to make the tournament.
Okay, on the other side of things, do you think that, people pushed for, say, in football, people were pushing for there to be more games to expand access to these championship games, to the higher games for so long, but we just kind of found new complaints when that actually happened.
It's the same people that keep complaining, and with football, it's a completely different story, because when they expanded from 4 to 12, it was one of those things where we're like, okay, 4 we knew was a little bit of a tough cutoff there, and at the end of the day, there's always going to be someone that's mad. There's always going to be someone that's irritated or mad or pissed that they got left out of the CFP, the college football playoff, or the NCAA tournament. Auburn was very mad, and they ended up winning the NIT tournament, which, good for you. You didn't have the resume to make the NCAA tournament. If you want to be firmly in that discussion, you have to win more games. I think it's very easy and clear to say that. But I think with the CFP, this has all been a big part of the money thing, because football makes more money than any other sport in college. It is a big reason why we're seeing a lot of these non-revenue sports like golf and tennis getting dropped from some of these high-profile and high-major schools, is because they want to take that money they're investing in those programs, put it into football, so they can get better football teams, and so they can make more money, make the CFP, and get part of that revenue share that comes with making part of this, or being a part of the CFP. But with the NCAA tournament, this is very much something that we've been toying with for the last 10 or so years. I think it was 10 years ago they introduced the first 4, where they're now bringing in these playing games, 11 versus 11 seeds, 16 versus 16, which I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Because if you have these 2 16-seeded teams fighting for a chance to play the number 1 overall seeds and all that kind of stuff, you're giving these coaches a chance to cash in on these incentives, these contract incentives. You're giving these players a chance to play in the NCAA tournament. That's great. It's about the player experience. This isn't about the player experience. This is about getting these bigger brands into the tournament so you can make more money. And sure, if that's going to help these brands in the long run, we can have that discussion sooner or later, but it's not like you're doing this to bump viewership either, because this year, the 2026 NCAA tournament was the second most watched tournament since 1994.
Wow.
People aren't turning off the tournament because there are 66 teams in there. People are watching the tournament more so now than ever. This is just one of those things where people just, I guess, kind of said, well, we can put more games. Sure, we have an avenue to do it, and we'll see. We'll see if it works, but this is all just one of those big things where you say it's about the money, and the money talks the most.
Well, and when you talk about money, yes, there's money for the colleges themselves or the coaches, now even the players. But I also think a part of maybe the rise in people watching March Madness also has to do with the gambling surrounding it, and that's going to be more money that people are shelling out.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. That's the thing we always keep talking about, is how does gambling affect all of this? And I think that's a part of it too. I think there's also this aspect of, it's a lot easier sometimes now to catch March Madness than it has ever been before. And I think a big reason for that is, if, for example, I watch it on YouTube TV. Mm-hmm. That's what I subscribe to. My family subscribes to that. You can have the multi-view. You have all 4 games all at once, and you can watch you can watch True TV, TBS, and TNT all at the same time. And if you had, back in the day when the old days where we had cable, you didn't have True TV and TBS unless you bought these expanded packages and all that kind of stuff. But in this specific instance with YouTube TV, you get these channels. You can watch them all at once. So of course it's a lot easier. It's a lot more accessible than it's ever been, which is fantastic. But also, you're right, the betting part of it is there too, where if you have people with money on the line, that's higher stakes than just saying, oh, my alma mater is playing, or, oh, hey, I live in the state of Illinois. University of Illinois is playing. Let's watch this game. No, there's actual money on the line for a lot of these people, which You can discuss ad nauseum whether or not that's a good thing. I personally don't. But also, that's another reason why people have been tuning in a lot more, and also another reason why people want to add more of these games to the tournament.
So, will this expansion effectively render the NIT mute?
That's a really good question. I think the NIT has been moot for a while, and I think, and it's not to say that it's a bad tournament. I really like the NIT. I like what it stands for. I like it's still a postseason tournament, because there's a lot of coaches out there that differ about things differently. They think about things a lot differently. Their thoughts differ specifically when you have a younger coach and a younger roster, and you want to say, hey, let's go get postseason experience. We're not in the NCAA tournament. Let's go play in the NIT. Let's go get that experience. So next year, we can run the table. We can do what we need to do to win games, because we've been in some of these higher profile games. But I think this year, in this specific era with the transfer portal, you can go and get guys that have played in the NCAA tournament nowadays. Like it's so up for debate how the NIT gets affected by this specifically, because we're not talking about expanding the NIT. We're always talking about expanding the NCAA tournament. So if there's one thing I hope out of all of this, I hope that this expansion gives more life to the postseason credibility that mid-majors teams have. Because in my mind, in my heart of hearts, there's one thing I want to watch less of, is a mediocre Big Ten team or a mediocre SEC team trying to cut it against some of these high major teams. Everybody was shocked when High Point beat Wisconsin this year. I wasn't, because I know the coaching staff behind High Point. I know what their offense ran. We do a little that extra research when they start bringing out these teams, and you find out that High Point just loves to score the basketball. Wisconsin just didn't guard the perimeter that well, and that's what happened. And you start to see these things pan out. You want to see more of that. You want to see the Cinderella teams win these games. I don't want to see Indiana and Oklahoma in there if they don't deserve to be in there. I sure as heck don't want to see Auburn to be in there if they don't deserve it. I want to see Drake. I want to see these MVC schools. I want to see Atlantic 10 schools get more of that love in the tournament. I want to see them have a chance to be Cinderellas and to make these March Madness moments, which are really unforgettable. And I know when we talk about it last year, this past season, the Big Ten expanded to include every single tournament, or every single team in the Big Ten tournament. That was a direct result of last year, when Nebraska was a bubble team and Nebraska got left out of the Big Ten tournament because of their record. So we're saying, well, let's just include everybody so they get a chance to help their bubble. That's great. But also, if you can't win those games at the end of the season and you're not a tournament team in March, you shouldn't be a tournament team when the brackets unveiled. So I hope it helps the mid-majors across the nation. I hope that this is something that we don't look back upon in a year and say, well, yeah, this was created specifically to get some of these bigger brands, because if they don't deserve it, they don't deserve it.
Do you think, though, that some people will look at the expansion as this is like give everybody a trophy?
It's a really good point. I was actually thinking about that earlier today, too. And at the end of the day, this is an invitational tournament. You get invited to the NCAA tournament the same way that you would get invited to the college football playoff. And everybody wanted to point fingers last year when Notre Dame was left out of the college football playoff. And the only people that Notre Dame blamed was themselves. A lot of people want to say, well, it was this person's fault. It was the SEC bias. For some reason, we're putting this Alabama team that got their helmets kicked in by Georgia in the SEC championship game in there. Why are we putting a Notre Dame team in there too? Well, it's just one of those things where, someone's got to get left out. You can't include everybody. Somebody's got to get left out. And if that makes you angry, so be it. The one thing I will say about Notre Dame football is they've taken that and used that as motivation. They've used that as motivation for the spring ball. We've started to see this team play a very heightened purpose. There's a lot of teams that missed out of the NCAA tournament this year too, which should be using the same kind of motivation. But I understand it's a little bit different in basketball as opposed to football. The roster turnover is insane. But I also think that there's this idea that we have to include people in there. We have to get as many people in there as possible. We don't have to do that. People are going to get left out because that's just how this goes. And if you have a problem with that, then you should just play better. You should coach better. You should be doing things better than what you're doing them as. And I think that's part of the conversation that coaches don't want to hear, because they have this easy way out, which is just expand the tournament, just expand it to 76. That way, Indiana would have gotten in this year. That way, Oklahoma, Auburn would have gotten in. We wouldn't be having this conversation. So I think it's one of those things where I get it. You get really irritated and sad if it doesn't happen, but it's called the tournament for a reason. You get invited for a reason because you have to be good enough to play. And if you're not good enough, if you're a 17-16 Auburn team, I'm sorry, you're not good enough.
All right. Well, it's going to be very interesting when March rolls around next year, but we've got a little time to absorb all of it. Unfortunately for those coaches, they're kind of nonstop. Their wheel turns between recruitment and coaching the actual team. It's nonstop.
Oh, it's nonstop. It's 365, every single day of every single year at this point now. And it's crazy. A lot of coaches will tell you it's crazy, and it's not going to get any better. So just hold your horses, I guess.
Thank you so much, Chris. We appreciate you as always.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Take care. Have a good weekend. 3:15, everyone. Give us 2 minutes, and we're going to talk about GLP-1s and brides. Right now, Lauren Scafidi is here.
Anita,
thanks for coming up.
Good to be with you, and also in our matching outfits today.
We're twinning a bit here, twinning a bit. We love to see it. Listen, I think I was saying at the beginning of the hour, it's nothing new for a bride to be ultra focused on like making sure everything is perfect, especially when it comes to their body for their wedding day.
Oh yeah.
But GLP-1s kind of take it to a different level.
Yeah, this is so interesting and so timely too, right? I mean, we are fast approaching wedding season. It is like full steam ahead. I'm sure you've got a bazillion weddings this summer, as do I. It's so busy. It's busy. So this is also a really busy time for bridal shops because typically brides are looking for that dress 9 to 12 months out just to make sure everything is perfect. And it really is a big deal, right? That wedding dress is the dress that you walk down the aisle in, the dress that you say I do, and the dress that you look back at photos forever on and say that was the one. It really is so special. So that's why it takes a long time to get everything just right. But like you were saying, GLP-1s really changing the game because a lot of brides are using them so that they look, whatever they think is their best for their wedding day. And they're dropping a lot of weight. Drastically, and really, really fast, too. I mean, in a matter of months, you can really lose a lot of weight with that kind of stuff. So these wedding dress shops are saying, okay, a lot is changing with these brides and their bodies. We've got to do something on our end to keep up because what's happening is, you know, they're either not going with this traditional timeline, they're kind of making their own timeline.
Yeah.
So what used to be 9 to 12 months has kind of turned into 4 to 6 now. That timeline is shrinking because they're like, okay, well, we don't want to go yet. Like, I'm going to lose some weight and then I'm going to go.
Yeah.
So that's really changing things for bridal shops. Another thing that they're seeing is that a lot of people are just buying things right off the rack a couple months out, rather than, you know, buying it a year out, getting all those alterations. They're like, you know what? I'm just going to wait. I'll buy it off the rack, and then that way I can make smaller alterations and it probably won't cost quite as much. So because of that, they're noticing more people buying things off the rack. They're putting more inventory out there so that people can buy them off the rack. They're kind of seeing these changes and adjusting in real time so that they can give these brides the best kind of support that they need, which makes sense. I mean, really, she says everything here that we're doing is coming from a place of love and support. We just want these brides to feel their best and look their best. If that means taking GLP-1s, the shop that I talked to in Edison Park said, take a GLP-1. We don't care. We just want you to feel good. So this wasn't a like, we're making them do all this stuff.
It's not condemnation.
Exactly.
It's just letting people know how they're having to adjust.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because one of the big things is that these bridal shops are now asking brides to sign a waiver, a contract, basically saying, hey, this dress might not fit me today, and I'm buying it and I'm walking out of the store with it, and if it doesn't fit me in, you know, 6 months for my wedding, that's my problem. And I personally, I feel like I can share my opinion on this show. I don't see anything wrong with that. Of course, the shop just wants to protect themselves.
And the waiver is a part of protecting themselves, because even if they're open to coming back to the table and you know, doing the alterations time and time again, the closer you get to that day, the less your options, you know. I mean, you have fewer and fewer options the closer you're getting in. They need some time to be able to do their work. So if you want the best work possible, put it in writing. Like, it may not be my best work. I'm going to do what I can do, but it may not be my best work. You go ahead and sign.
And you bring up such a great point, Anita, because alterations are a big part of this all too. Think about it. If you're taking, we'll say, you know, a size 12 to a size 2, that could very easily happen with this GLP-1s, right? So if you've got a size 12 dress that you're taking to a size 2, those alterations really are drastic. I mean, the shop owner that I talked to said, now you're talking a full reblown reconstruction. I mean, you're making a new dress. She said in those situations, they actually have to take off the lace. They have to take off the beading and redo it, because you're making the dress just so much smaller. So really, like you said, we just want everyone to look good. That's what it all comes down to.
And to understand, you know, like you said, that if it is coming out of love, you know, listen, I'm not trying to be hard on you, just trying to be at my best for you.
Exactly. You want to look your best for your wedding day? Well, help me help you kind of thing.
Because it is I mean, you're a walking billboard for that company too.
So true.
You know, so when people say like, oh, well, where'd you get your dress? You know, I mean, they also want people to really love what they're seeing.
Exactly. They've implemented other programs too. They've got this 8-week shift program where basically if you are on these GLP-1s, you can kind of work on an 8-week program with them. That way, you know, you can get your alterations just right. So they really are thinking of everything during this time. And so they're seeing these problems and they're adjusting real time, which I think is pretty cool. Now, this is getting a lot of backlash online. People online are saying, I can't believe they're making them sign these waivers. I don't see it.
I mean, listen, you're always going to have a million opinions on everything, and especially online, for sure. But yeah, I mean, I can't see how it would be bad for a business to protect themselves if they're saying they're going to do the work. They're going to help you however they can, but there have to be some parameters too, you know.
It's just so interesting how things have changed. You know, she was talking to me and she said, you know, 5 years ago or whatever, if you would have said, oh, like, you know, I might change a size or 2, that's normal. But now people want to change like 5 or 6 sizes, you know? So it's a totally different ball game nowadays. So this has been going on for about a year now. It's gaining some more traction because we are at the start of wedding season again. So she said that they've been doing this for about a year now, and I suspect that they might, you know, even make some more tweaks to what they've already got going on in the future. future. Yeah, this is just the beginning.
And I also think about the fact that you mentioned that they're putting more inventory out. That's also another way of trying to meet people where they are right now, because it's saying, hey, if you only had inventory that I had to buy a year out, that's one thing. But it's saying, okay, listen, we know that people are taking these and they may change several times, so they may want to come at like, you know, a few months out instead of a year out. I'm going to make sure there's something available that we then only maybe have to change once, instead of I'm making you buy it a year out when I know you're going to change a million times and have to keep coming back to me, and I'm taking your money each time.
Yes, exactly. And this isn't every bridal shop also. You know, I called quite a few this morning trying to get in touch and see who we might be able to get this done with. But some of them said, yeah, we've heard of that. We're not doing that. So it really just depends on where you go. I think that, you know, probably some of these places have been burned a couple of times. And that's why they said, you know what, forget about it. We want to make sure this is all good. So it's not everywhere, but definitely picking up steam.
Really interesting. And as you said, I mean, we're now that the weather is starting to get a little bit better outside, we will see more and more weddings that are happening over the next few months. And who knows what these brides have gone through over the last several months trying to get ready for their big day. But it is a day when people want everything to be perfect. Nothing's ever perfect, but as close to it as possible.
Exactly. So we'll have a short story at 4 o'clock, and we've got the full story coming your way at 5 o'clock. I was very excited to be covering this one because I've seen it all over social media.
Well, we look forward to seeing your story and hearing those accounts from both sides. Did you get to talk to a bride?
No, we didn't get a chance to talk to a bride, unfortunately, but we did talk to the shop, had a really nice conversation with the shop about kind of covering this thing from every angle. So we've got all of that coming your way.
All right, because you can't be a bridezilla if you're asking them to change multiple times either, you know, and they're doing what they can. You can't be a bridezilla. Thanks for coming up. We appreciate it. It's 3:26, everyone. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Back, everyone. 3:28. We were still in here just really going in on that conversation about the bridal dresses, wedding dresses. Goodness, that is a big talker. So looking forward to that conversation, really posted online and seeing what people have to say in the comments later on today, especially when you see the full thing, okay? But let's talk about some of the other things that people are clicking on the web right now. One of them is a big one. If you are going to be online, online, today moving forward. And that's that Meta, that's the parent company of Instagram and Facebook, that they can read your Instagram DMs starting today if you don't protect yourself. We were just having that conversation about protection online when we were talking about the hackers. This isn't a hack. This is the real thing coming from the company itself. And so we had T. Lee working on this story that their Instagram is removing an end-to-end encryption from direct messages starting today, giving Meta the ability to read private chats it previously could not access. And so what they're saying here is that users who previously enabled the encryption feature should download their chat back up before the deadline. Sorry, it's today, but that you should avoid storing it in Google Drive or iCloud, which would strip the remaining protection as well. So there is a Take It Down Act that was signed into law May 2025, a year ago, that requires platforms to remove non-consensual deepfake images within 48 hours of a victim's report, and platforms have until May 19th of this year to have that system in place. But now getting this new information that's starting today, previously efforts that previously prevented the company from reading users' direct messages, raising some questions about what happens to old encrypted chats and why the time aligns with the federal law targeting digital exploitation takes full effect now starting today. So T had some reporting about what you can do to protect yourself here, what you do moving forward if you turned on end-to-end encryption for Instagram direct messages. All of that information is online, and a lot of people are already going on our website to check that out. There's plenty of different things. Why is this happening now? What the Take It Down Act actually does, what comes next here. All of those things are at fox32chicago.com. So you can check that out, as many people already have today. Also, we have an article about an Indiana man accused of speeding off with officers inside of a van, jumping from a vehicle that's a lot of people are clicking on online as well, that he allegedly drove off during a traffic stop. So he was already in trouble. And then he takes off with two officers inside of his van. He's swerving across lanes here. He hit semi-trailers. This was on I-65. Officers ended up using a taser to take him into custody. And there was a search of his van that found MDMA pills, also suspected cocaine, and also marijuana. So maybe some of the actions came from those things. The suspect is a man named Keith McCoy of Indianapolis. He's 43 years old, now facing 22 felony charges and 4 misdemeanors charges that are, he's also being held at the Lake County Jail. So a wild ride, quite literally, for everyone involved. It does look like the officers are okay, so that's really important, especially on a day like today. Of course, our biggest story of the day was the death and now burial of Officer John Bartholomew of the Chicago Police Department. His services started up at St. Andrew's Greek Orthodox Church at 10 o'clock this morning. If you were with us in our first hour, we took live pictures of the services and the processional from the church through the streets of Chicago to Elmwood, where he was buried today. And our thoughts are certainly with his friends and family. The church was packed today. I mean, there were people from all over who came to be there to support the family and also just to show appreciation for the police department. We saw those pictures of people coming out of their businesses, coming out of their homes, even during the processional, where people just wanted to salute, wanted to show their signs of support, even as the processional was taking place. So it's been a long day. for the family of Officer Bartholomew, and this is just one day in the many days ahead of handling their grief, their journey of grief. But I hope that seeing the people that came out today did them a little well, did their hearts a little well today, to just see the level of appreciation shown for that level of sacrifice, that ultimate sacrifice. And of course, Officer Bartholomew's partner, Officer Nepsco, is still in the hospital fighting for his life. The two were shot after taking a suspect into custody for an armed robbery, and somehow that suspect was able to smuggle a gun into Swedish hospital and shoot both of them, critically injuring Officer Bartholomew's partner and killing Officer Bartholomew, just in his late 30s, a husband, a father, a son, a brother. His brother spoke at the services today, and he said he wasn't just my brother, he was my best friend. So they have been through quite a bit over the last couple of weeks. His end of watch was April 25th. And they will need that support. The show of support that they saw, hopefully that they could feel today, they will continue to need that support moving forward. Again, we saw the procession from the church to Elmwood Cemetery here on our show, but they have a long journey ahead from here that I hope people will surround them with support during. So that obviously is our big story of the day, the loss of our 7th Chicago police officer in the last 5 years. Another thing that's trending on our website right now has to do with a son who gunned down his father inside of a suburban Chicago home. That is also another one of the articles that a lot of people are looking at. He's been charged with first-degree murder. Police say that he shot his father inside of an Oak Lawn home. His father, a 50-year-old Ayed Manayet, suffered from that life-ending gunshot wound, and police have not released a motive here, but the suspect, Sammy, the son, is due in court for a detention hearing next Thursday. So those are a few of the stories that are trending on our website. As we prepare for the 4 o'clock show, those will be some of the stories you'll see. There will be others. I'll tell you about a few things that our reporters are working on a little bit later as we get closer to the 4 o'clock. But let's take a look at how the stock market is holding up today as well before we get to another break here. It's been quite the week for the stock market, and well, you've got quite the picture here as we end the week. Let's start with the positive, okay? We ended it. We ended the week in the positive. That is a positive thing. But as you can see, this picture on your screen is a bit like the picture of the week. I mean, this is just for the day, but we've kind of been all over the place this week. We've had some days that were fully in the red, and some days that have had a mixed picture, and some days that did really well this week. A lot of this still having to do with the war in Iran, but us ending in the positive today has a lot to do with the April jobs report coming out this morning, and it was better than expected. Always love to hear that. The traders always love to hear that as well for the stock market. So the S&P 500 advanced about 0.84%. The NASDAQ composite climbed 1.71%. And as you're seeing here on the screen, the Dow Jones Industrial Average inched up to 12.19 points to end the day, 0.02%. But again, at least it's in positive territory today. All of the major averages showing some weekly gains this week by the end of the week. So we're glad to be able to see that. The oil prices still, they're still pretty high. Not as high as we've seen. So let's, again, celebrate the positive. We have seen over $100 a barrel for some of these, and today we're at about 95.50. So yes, it's still high, but it has come down a little bit. And again, a lot of this has to do with the conflict in Iran. And I say the conflict because the initial the war in Iran, the framework around that war in Iran, President Trump says that the objectives have been met and that that objective is now over. Then we, at the beginning of this week, had Project Freedom that started up, where there were U.S. ships kind of blocking the Iranian ships to try to get some vessels through the Strait of Hormuz. I think only 2 ships were able to get through the Strait of Hormuz in that time before that operation kind of ceased to exist as well. So right now, the Trump administration still feels as though the ceasefire is holding, but we also have, ships that are being fired upon. So the Iranian officials have said that, several ships were fired upon yesterday, but the Trump administration holds steady. And you heard right here on our air earlier this week, Secretary Marco Rubio said at this point, their outlook on things, and I believe Secretary Hegseth said the same, is that at this point, their outlook on things is that this is a defensive operation, meaning they're going to sit still in the Strait of Hormuz. They're not going to do anything unless they are provoked, and then they will respond. So if there is, firepower happening in the Strait of Hormuz from the Trump administration side of things, they look at that as a defensive measure, and that it was provoked and therefore warranted. So those are some of the things that we're watching. Again, the stories that are populating online, and then obviously the stock market. We wanted to see where we were ending the week because it has been such a tumultuous week as well, with so many kind of wondering where we go from here, especially with the war in Iran, but also with the April jobs report coming out this morning, and again showing better than expected numbers. Let's hope that we start next week in the green and stay that way. But there are obviously a lot of factors that weigh on that. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what develops over the weekend. We still don't know whether there is a clear-cut path. There's been a proposal sent, but we still don't know if there is a clear-cut path or a way forward between the U.S. and Iran just yet. But that is something being mulled over. We'll see what developments happen over the weekend that lead us into a new week, and what effect that will have on the stories that we're talking about next week, and especially what's happening on the stock market by then. Let's take a 2-minute break, everyone, and then we'll be right back. We're hoping that we get into a discussion about the Anti-Cruelty Society being able to rescue a couple of super cute dogs, and their story from here that just keeps getting better. Welcome back, everyone. It's 3:45, which means it's time for our final conversation of the day here on Chicago Live. Not just final conversation of the day, it's the last one of the work week as well. And boy, this one is good for our souls, good for our hearts. We caught wind of this pair of dogs that have a beautiful bond, and how their story just continues to gain levels of heartwarming content. It's really amazing to see. Their names are Bird and Dee. There they are right now, and that's their new family. Look at Bird and Dee. Oh my goodness. Let's find out more about them from Lydia Krupinski. She's the Vice President of Community Engagement for the Anti-Cruelty Society. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having us. We're so happy you're covering this special story.
Oh, we love it. And I think this is just the best way to end the week talking about Bird and Dee. Tell me how you all came upon them.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, Anti-Cruelty, we are Chicago's only nonprofit open door shelter, which means we take in animals of all kinds and all kinds of situations from across the city. And we received a phone call about Bird and Dee, that they were found near a rail line in the city, and that they looked to be wandering and on their own. And so we sent out our humane investigations team, who scooped them up and brought them here to the shelter to put them in our care, get them vetted, get them fattened up, and get them ready for adoption.
When was that? How long has this journey been?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's been just over a week. And shortly after they arrived, our staff quickly recognized that these two dogs had a very special bond. We would find them not just nestled together, but actually Bird would like to sleep on top of Dee. So we always joke they're this little doggy sandwich. But you could tell that this connection that they had formed was more than just friends. It's like they were completely, deeply bonded with one another. And so that's what really stole our hearts about this pair.
This is the best thing ever. So I imagine you all are then like hoping and just wishing some family takes them both in, but at the same time, I guess the bigger wish has to be that a home comes to each one of them, but it even better, like cherry on top, if one family would take them both, right?
Yeah. So we were definitely right. It's that moment of like, okay, what do? We try to do right by every animal that comes in our care. And we take in over 6,000 pets a year.
Wow.
To then rehome back out into the community. And so our goal is always to find the best home possible as quickly as possible, right? So we can help the next animal. And so with these two, we're like, all right, like it's a big dog and a little dog, two dogs. Where are we going to find someone who's going to take this special pair? And so that's when we turned to our social media platforms and our Chicago community and said, hey, everyone, we know there's someone out there who has space in their heart and home for these two special pups. And boy, did the community respond, which we've been so happy to see.
Oh, that's awesome. So there were multiple people who were ready to hop in.
Yes, it was incredible, right? Sometimes we know how social media can be fickle sometimes, I think even on our personal pages, but we put the call out earlier this week and we shared the photos of them stacked on top of one another, sleeping in their kennel. Then we posted another picture and some videos of them playing together just to show their special dynamic. And we started receiving hundreds of messages. It flooded in the best possible way of folks asking more questions about them, inquiring about them, and then really the secret sauce was people sharing their story, because that's how it came to be that the adopters had heard about them. So this special family came in last night after seeing their story shared on social media.
Oh, and what did they say when they saw them? Walk me through like reactions and how it all came to be a family.
Yeah. So it's a lovely local family who had been looking for a dog for their household, and they stumbled on their story on social media, and they, like so many of us, immediately became smitten when you see these two pups who are very different in size and look and temperament. That's one of the fun things to witness between these two is, we have this German Shepherd who's all big and playful, and then Bird who's little and very bossy. So they came in last night after reading about them online and immediately fell in love, and their kids immediately fell in love. And so from that first moment of them coming into contact with Bird and Dee, it was just so apparent, not just to the family, but also to our team here, that they had this special connection and chemistry that formed. And so they filled out the application, the forms, they went through all the counseling that we do to support adopters here, and then they took them home last night. So by the time we closed at 7:30 p.m., they were on their way to their new home.
Oh my goodness. I mean, that is quite the it's quite the change of pace to go from one dog or saying like, oh, we want one, to taking in two at once.
Yeah, that's right. Because you could think of it as double trouble, but I think what's really unique about this pair is that it's almost like they're one unit. So when spending time with them in the last week since they've been here, I mean, they do everything together. There's this one fun video we posted of them even drinking out of a water bowl at the same time. So they're like these little Siamese twins that just want to always be touching. And so I think this family, when they heard about their story, but then also witnessed it in person, how could your heart not just completely connect with them? And so we've also been in touch with them today, because we're all of us here, right, are like, how are they doing? How did things go last night? And they settled in immediately. The kids are doing great. The family has experience with dog training. And so they're really well equipped to, I think, handle whatever chaos may come, because these are 1-year-old dogs, right? So they're teenagers. So a lot comes with that. But this family really is committed. And I think what I love about this story, besides being such a great showcase of the work shelters like Anti-Cruelty are doing across Chicagoland, is it also shows the power of community, right? It's like we post this story, people fell in love with these two dogs, even though they'd never met them. And it was everyone just coming together and amplifying and boosting their story is what got them home so fast. So we're so grateful for that.
It's like a movie. Like someone needs to make a movie, or if maybe someone already can think of a movie, but it seems like a movie.
That's how it feels. Like we need the Hallmark Channel, right? Like getting on this
with
quick
some
and coming up with
tissues.
some kind of special.
We need the tissues ready for it.
Yes. And so what I suspect will probably happen is, this isn't the last we're going to hear about Bird and Dee. I know we're going to stay in touch with the adopters. I know the community wants to hear how they're doing. So I feel like they belong to all of us now in one way, right? And so
everyone's
invested. I think we'll continue, to hear their story.
I love it. Have you ever seen, bond like this before with dogs or any animals that have come into you all?
Yeah, so we do have bonded pairs come through fairly, I would say, I wouldn't say it's common, but we do have cats that come through who are bonded, or sometimes we'll have litter mates that grew up together, now are adults and having to come in and be rehomed who are bonded. But I think what made this pair so unique was the size difference, right? It's like you have this really, really tiny pug chihuahua mix, and then you have this full-grown German Shepherd. And so I think that contrast is what made it extra special to see just how tight-knit they are. And then Bird just liking to sleep on top of Dee is just the cherry on top. I mean, I feel like it just pulled on every heartstring known to man, right? To see those two not just emotionally inseparable, but physically inseparable. So that's pretty unique, I think, to this case and to this story.
Yeah, I so wonder about their story before you all even came in contact with them. Like, had they been in the same house before? Did they meet along the railway? I mean, like, I want to know the whole story.
Someone had written in the comments, this should be like a children's book, right? Like a picture book. What was the origin story? How did they come to Anti-Cruelty, and then all their escapades in the future here? So yeah, I mean, it's so curious with all the thousands of animals we serve, right? Sometimes we have the backstories. Sometimes it's the people who own the pet who, for a variety of reasons, maybe have fallen on hard times and can no longer keep the pet. That's what we're here for. But the points at which they enter the shelter, sometimes we have that backstory and sometimes we don't. And so for dogs like this, it really is quite a mystery for us. Like, okay, like where did the bond for them begin? We do believe they came from the same household originally, from the information that our field team was able to gather. But what happened prior to that, we don't know. And so we can only speculate. But yeah, it makes you wonder.
Well, I love that they stayed together. And I wonder, you know, with the attention on them, did that also help, you know, with people? There's a level of awareness that people are getting that's also increasing into what you all do. Did people pour into you all? I mean, I'm sure you all need help with your efforts year round.
Yeah, thank you. That's such a great question. So one of the reasons why we like to showcase these stories is we want to get the community involved in our work, and that's not just sharing the story, but also coming in. So a lot of folks don't know that anti-cruelty, we're here in downtown Chicago, Grand and LaSalle. We have free parking. I always promote, because sometimes folks worry about parking down here, but we really are an open door, not just for pets, but also for people. And so we encourage folks, come on down. Like, even if you're not looking to adopt, come and visit our animals. So we did, after seeing, you know, having the story blow up online and on social media, we did see an influx of folks in the past couple of days coming by to visit and just to meet them, even if they weren't in a position to adopt. And that's good for all the animals, right? Every time a cat gets extra snuggles, or a rabbit that's in our care gets some extra attention, or a dog gets to go out, you know, we have this lovely courtyard on the interior of our building where you can come and walk the dogs. We also have a field trip program where you can take a dog out for 2 hours to the lakefront, or, you know, just to get them out of downtown for a little bit. So folks don't necessarily know that. So this is a great moment for us to build that awareness too. So yes, adopt. There's amazing animals, hundreds of them across anti-cruelty and the whole animal welfare ecosystem in Chicago, looking for homes. And if you can't adopt, just come and visit. It's such a great, I think, thing for the animals and also for us, right? To get our pet fix and to have that opportunity to connect with animals that are in our care. So I think that's the other piece of this that's really helpful, is to just boost that awareness.
Absolutely. I think the world of what you all do, I hope that people will continue to pour into you all. I mean, in terms of like all the different types of animals you all have, like what's the range?
What is the range? So we take in everyone. So that's one of the things unique to anti-cruelty, is we don't, you know, pick and choose who comes in. So we had a bearded dragon come through a couple of weeks ago, but we specifically adopt out to our adoption center cats, dogs, rabbits, guinea pigs, and other small mammals. The other animals like birds or wildlife go to specialized facilities that help them along to their next step. But if somebody is interested, right, in spending a little bit of time with a cat or dog or one of the small critters, they can just come on in. We're open every day from 12:30 to 7:30, except for Tuesdays. We open at 3 because we do a super deep clean in the morning. So to keep it fresh, we clean all day, every day, but that's our deep clean day. And so folks can come in whenever. We launched this really cool program last year called Wild Tunes, where musicians can come in and even play music for the animals who are here in our care. So we have another program called Reading Buddies, where kids who are practicing their reading skills can come and read to the animals. So we really try to make it as welcoming of a space as possible, because we recognize that there's that connection between pets and people, and it makes us all feel good to spend time together. So we really want to welcome folks in whatever capacity to come and hang out with the animals, whether they want to adopt or not.
Lydia, wonderful speaking to you. Wherever they are, Bird and Dee, congratulations. And keep posting. We love to see all of the videos that you and the pictures. Thank you.
Well,
Have a good
thank you
weekend.
for your support. We appreciate it.
Okay. Take care. Hats off to them for their efforts. I love stories like this. I hope that you all loved it too. There's a lot of hard things in our world, so it's always good when we just have a moment to smile, to think of the good things that are happening. There are good things happening out there. So thank you so much for being here with us all week. We certainly appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you back here on Monday, everybody. We'll be right back here in Studio 32 from 1 to 4.